and welcome to the November 17th, 2018 edition of Point Counterpoint, the 46360 show. The opinions expressed by the show's host, myself, Dwayne Perry, and Anthony Tony Hendricks, will many times conflict, thus the title, Point Counterpoint. Point Counterpoint is a weekly issue show for our area. Point Counterpoint always lets you judge for yourself. We live in an information free-for-all. It's hard to see through all the misinformation and get to the accurate facts, what is right and best for our community. We will not libel, discriminate, or disrespect anyone or their views. We believe in the constitutional First Amendment, right of free speech, and we support anyone who voices their opinion as part of their duty to their community. This program brings you just that, an unedited, honest, candid discussion of issues. The producers of Point Counterpoint are solely responsible for the content of the show, but because the show is not rehearsed, we take no responsibility for the opinions and statements made by our guests or for the information they gather from public sources. We will adhere to all applicable federal, state, and local regulations concerning limits of public speech and program content. The intent of this show is to thoroughly research current issues that affect our community, present the facts surrounding the issues, discuss pros and cons, then present to our viewing audience what we together or individually feel is the best solution for both the community and the public. Point Counterpoint 46360 show is a property of its producers, Dwayne Perry and Anthony Tony Hendricks, and may not be rebroadcast without the written permission of its producers. The producers take no responsibility for the opinions of others in the posting of comments in chat rooms, blogs, video logs, forum posts, or other media. We welcome and encourage ideas and suggestions for our show. We can be reached at 46360show at excite, EXCITE.com. Our shows will air on Comcast Cable Access and will be rebroadcast by us on YouTube under the label Point Counterpoint 46360 show. All you have to do is search 46360 show and it will come up. Again, welcome to Point Counterpoint, the 46360 show, brought to you by Dwayne Perry and Anthony Tony Hendricks. We hope you enjoy the topics, our discussion, and the show. So let's get started. Tony, what do we have on our agenda for today?
Well, good to be back in the saddle, right?
We sure are.
Wow, just
endless
issues. Woo.
I almost searched for Gene Autry's song, Back in the Saddle, but I just didn't have time. Go ahead.
Okay, 2018 midterm elections. We have got to talk about them. A topic, we always discuss lots of things. And so, headlining this is, why doesn't Michigan City finish anything? Now, I didn't do a little bit of my homework, so we get to that. I'll admit to some of my homework wasn't done. New South Shore double track plan. Lots of articles about that in the last month and a half. New Lakefront District. 70 pages of new rules and regulations. Great little thing the City Plan Commission put on and got some info for the public if you're watching cable access. So it's pretty interesting. Are we done with community crossings? The improvement. We have a list.
Pedestrian safety, that's what we're referring to.
No, community crossings is the money the state gives us.
Oh, okay.
And then lots of other little things we might bring in. But let's start with the midterm elections. That's what I was doing on my phone. If you saw a couple little neat things. So see, you and I watched it. We weren't together, but we watched it, and it looked like the straight tickets for the Republicans were outnumbering the Democrats.
Yeah, that was very interesting because since I've been watching politics and elections, the Republicans have always complained about the straight ticket vote, the punch 10, punch 11. And yet this election, the straight ticket votes by Republicans, the count was more than by Democrats.
Well, no, I just looked it up that I was doing on the phone. It was all night until the very end.
Oh, when early voting came in?
The early voting came in, and boy, it turned the tables because we'll talk about one of the seats. But Democrat straight ticket party, 7,683. Republican straight tickets, 7,044. So it's a difference of 639.
Oh,
that is tight.
Yeah, that's
in my day, since I've been watching, I've seen 3,000, 2,000, 1,500. So now we dwindled down to 639. So
That says something,
We
but
saw at the end of the night there, if you look at one of the biggest races in the county, the tightest one was the commissioner. Republican, Connie Grammarosa versus Sheila Brilson.
that was like 900 votes, I
It
believe.
was like 900 votes, but that turned at the end.
Yeah,
So we've seen that
Grammarosa was ahead.
maybe the Republicans are catching on to this early voting because they whittled it down to 639.
Well, the Republicans seem to be more reluctant to do things than the Democrats. They're not as aggressive at bringing voters in.
Yeah.
That's got pros and cons. I feel a real concern that we're getting voters going into the booth that aren't qualified. They're not. When I say qualified, they don't know who the candidates are. They don't know anything about them. Two things I want to point out. I was driving down Michigan Boulevard election day, and I saw the old Kevin's Smokehouse, or Kevin's Barbecue, whatever it is. It's not in business anymore, I believe. But the Democrats, the Polk County Democrats, had rented that space, and they had 4 what they called voter courtesy vehicles out front with signs on the side. And I believe what they were doing was going down the voting list, which is public information. Anybody can get one. All you got to do is call the county voter registration, and you can get a copy of the voting list, which gives names, addresses, and how people voted. And a lot of demographics: age, sex,
Birthday.
telephone number, birthday, and age through the birthday.
Yeah.
And I think they were going down and soliciting the votes. I said, calling someone at 71, 75 years old, do you have access to the polls today? Do you have a car? Would you like us to come and pick you up to vote? And that's very nice in one aspect, but I feel that if a person, we have excellent public transportation in Michigan City, and I feel that if a person wants to vote, they need to have the dedication to get out there and vote on their own. Wanting to and actually doing it are two different things. The people that actually do it are the people that truly are involved and want to vote. Although I did talk to a young lady that worked in retail that day. I was in a store and 2 ladies were in front of me and going through the checkout, and they each had I voted stickers. And I said, yeah, I voted early. And the lady behind the cash register, a very young lady, looked to be in her 20s. She said, I'm voting too. I'm voting today for my first time, but I don't know where to go to vote. And I thought, come on. Voter registration is there. Call them, give them your address. They'll tell you exactly why or exactly where you need to go to vote. And you need to do that because one of the voting places changed this year. Traditionally, votes had been cast at Marsh School for 2 different precincts. Well, the school administration laid it on the county that if they were going to be allowed to use Marsh School, they had to hire security for the school during the voting hours, 12 hours. And the county opted not to, so at the last minute, they moved the polling place for 2 different precincts. Well, this young lady did not know where she was going to go to vote, and the 2 ladies in front of me just said, well, where do you live? And she told them, and they told her where the closest polling place was, which I'm fairly certain, knowing what I do know, that it's not laid out like that. That was not where the lady should have gone to vote. And I just didn't feel comfortable that she even knew who was on the ballot. And that gives you a lot of ground for that punch 10 or punch 11.
Yeah, I mean,
whoever she's told is...
If she went to a polling place, they would have told her, where do you live? They would have known enough to say, well, go to this place.
But if she got off work just an hour or 30 minutes before the polls closed, she may not have been able to cast her vote because she didn't know.
Yeah,
it showed up at the wrong place.
So looking at this, the turnout was 49%, which was great for a midterm.
Incredible.
Real high. So people are motivated, I guess, to vote, and that's good. And like Dwayne said, I hope they're motivated enough to research the issues, pick their candidate, know what their candidate stands for, and then go vote. Now, I mean, you and I are in politics. We know what happens. You talked about the voter list. So you get a voter list with name, and they show when you voted in the primary, what ticket you pulled, when you voted in the general. They show you all that information for, I think, the last 5 or 7 years. There's a whole history of your voting.
I think it's 10 years.
10 years.
10
the
years.
history of your voting. So what they do, and this is Republicans or Democrats, depends on who's more organized, they have people at those polls. You can have someone at each poll, and they can look, they are allowed to look to see who showed up to vote. They can't see your vote, but they can look at the attendance. And they have their list at that poll. So they get in there and say, okay, this person showed up. Where's this person? Where's this person? So they start getting on the phone. Hey, why didn't you vote? Do you need a ride? We'll get you. So they were very motivated. The Democrats have always done a very good job of that in LaPorte County. Now I'm looking at the Sheila Burleson Connie Grammarosa race. The difference between, it was a 798 vote win for Sheila, and the difference between that and the straight tickets was 159. So the Democrats did a good job of making sure every person they could showed up, they gave them a ride, they make sure they exercised their right to vote.
And the Republicans don't do that.
And they didn't do that. Well, it looks like they're catching up, but they were still 159 short in a heated election. That's why I get those phone calls. Hey, did you vote? You know, a month before, voting's open. Would you go vote? You're ready to vote. Let's vote. We need you to vote. And I vote early, so I always tell them, hey, I voted.
You never know what's going to happen Election Day. So if you have the opportunity to vote early, my wife was in the hospital Election Day. She didn't expect to be in the hospital, but she was. So if you she went and voted early because I told her.
Yeah.
We knew that we had an issue that we had to address that was coming up, and I said, you need to go in and vote early, because she knew exactly who she wanted to vote for, and I said, you got to have your vote count.
Yeah, and did you have a line? I didn't.
No.
Maybe 2 or 3 people. So the media showing these big long lines, it's going to take you hours. That doesn't happen in LaPorte. I mean, you get in and out pretty quick. The clerk does a great job. You are in and out of there in minutes. Probably quicker than when you vote your early place. They just have you in, they have you out. It's real easy, and like you said, you don't know what happens on Election Day. So it's very simple in Indiana. Exercise your right.
There's so much that can be said about the election process, and in particular, Election Day. Tony and I both work in the county complex, so we hear a lot more talk about elections than people in individual towns. And I heard some really crazy, hard to believe things, like people applied for an absentee ballot in a very timely manner, several weeks early, and they got their absentee ballot, applied by mail, and they got their absentee ballot 2 days before the election, with a lapse of like 2 weeks or more. And you hear these things, and you don't know what's accurate, what's not. You don't know why these things. I myself will say that, and this is accurate, I did it. After I lost my race to maintain my seat as a 5th Ward councilman in 2015, I lost by 4 votes. I looked through the voting records of absentee ballots in particular, because that's the only area in which an election can be nullified or overturned. And going back and forth between absentee ballots, name, address and date of birth, and News Dispatch obituaries, I found 9 individuals who on Election Day were no longer with us. They were deceased. Now, I mentioned that to some people, and they said, well, that can't be. I don't know what to tell you. There weren't that many people by that name at that address, but the News Dispatch specifically mentioned that that individual had died before, and the law, until just recently, was that a voter had to be living on Election Day. You cast an early vote, and if you pass away between casting that vote and Election Day, your vote was thrown out. But now just recently, just this year, in the last couple months, our state legislature has reversed that with legislation saying that absentee or early voting or an absentee ballot will count whether the person is living or not on election day. And the rationale, which I don't agree with, it's if you're not alive on election day, your vote should not count. But their rationale was it placed too much of a burden on the county clerks who conduct the elections. It's legally their responsibility to man the polls and conduct the election. It's too much responsibility on them to be able to verify who's alive and who's not in the early voters, and yet give a reliable and accurate count of who won and who lost.
Yeah, you brought up a really good issue. I'm sitting here thinking, okay, so this is my understanding how the election works. They set the ballot, and then they open up elections. So you can apply for a by mail absentee ballot.
Yeah.
They'll send you, or you can have, what do they call that? They send people out to help to traveling board. They send a traveling board.
They'll come get your vote.
They'll come get your vote
with a portable voting machine.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm gonna bring up. So when you absentee mail ballot, you have paper, right? So you get this packet and you sign it in. This is not the packet, but this is for demonstration purposes. And you mail it in, and the clerk takes it and they set it down. Now, come election day, they take all those that were mailed in absentee ballots. They are still sealed. They have signatures that are checked. They know who they are. They don't know the vote, but they know in that packet is Joe Smith and his votes are in there. So if you died under the old rule, they could say, okay, Joe died. We're going to pull this out of the stack, and he's not going to count his vote, whatever his vote was.
Right.
So you could do that, but now
there's no arithmetic involved because the vote's not registered.
Yeah, they take it.
They can just take Joe Smith's vote and go.
Whatever it was, they just don't accept it. Now they don't get rid of it.
Yeah, minimal calculations.
Now you talked about it, I understand why. Because when we go vote early, or anyone goes vote early, they check your name and where you vote, and they plug in your voting district, and then you get to vote in a machine. Now I have some homework, or we have some homework to do. When that machine at the end of the day of the early voting day, or whatever it is, or all those machines at the end of all the early voting, they set those aside until all the tallies in from the voting on the day, then they add those in. So if somebody died and they checked in, they don't know which one of those votes on the machine was theirs.
Well, that's an interesting point.
You can't take it out.
That's what interesting point that I was going to go to, because I was thinking about that while you were talking. That when I appealed the results of the election because I lost by just 4 votes, and that was less than 1/10 of 1% of a vote that I lost by. And when the recount process is nothing more than they set all the voting machines up. The voting machines have been secured and locked.
Yes.
They set all the voting machines up, and they run another tape, the same tape that they ran immediately after the election when the polls closed. So the machine vote is going to be the same. The question is the early vote and the absentee ballots that are counted separately. They're not in the machine.
Right.
And when I say I discovered 9 individuals that had passed away before election day, then I really thought, hey, I lost by 4 votes, there's 9. But they don't know which one of the 2 candidates that individual voted for, except in one condition. And I asked the voter registration about this. They said when someone goes to the Michigan City Courthouse, it's probably the LaPorte Courthouse too, to cast an early ballot, they direct you to a machine and they put a number on that ballot. And that number they put next to your name.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. So
they could
if they
extract that ballot out of the machine, that number. Now, it's a random number, so it doesn't hook to your name, but
no, it hooks to your ballot.
Your name, so they know how you voted.
So if you vote early and you pass away, they'll pull Tony Hendricks' ballot and they'll nullify each vote that you cast.
Now, see, now I'm really concerned.
Oh, yeah.
Because
very interesting.
We have to find out in early voting. I got to ask the clerk: is my name connected to a number? So, in I don't know, a very bad world, could somebody go in and find that link and find out who each people voted? So somebody's mad at you. Hey, Dwayne, I see you voted for Joe. I don't like you. I'm going to come after you because I found the number ballot connected to your votes.
Well, actually,
Because votes need to be completely.
in this age of computerization, Tony, they could assign a number to every ballot.
No, not when you go to vote and during the day, because they just give you the guy. He just puts the R or D card in there, or he just puts the card in there. It never ever is attached to your name. Once you sign in,
Well, I know it's
you are
not.
completely detached from your vote, and that's the way it should be. Completely confidential. If there's
Yeah, okay, I can understand that, but if they wanted to, there's in this age of computerization, they could.
for the early voting, if you're saying it's true, but they can't do that for regular voting.
Why not?
Because the regular voting, you sign up, then you go to the next table, and they don't take your name. They just put it in there and allow you to vote one time. There's nothing attached when that person comes to the machine.
If everyone signs in on the same log, you sign in on the same log,
Right?
each polling place would have a different numbering system. And everyone signs in on the same log, those voting machines can be linked.
But they're not right now.
1, 2, 3,
They're not linked right now.
I know they're not. No, I know they're not now. I'm just saying
But
if
the
they
early
really
voting
wanted
machine,
to,
yeah.
they could. They wanted to.
No, I
they
don't think they can. I think they have to be completely
could. I'll have to
confidential.
think about that some more.
We got to do some
But
research.
the other thing, and I need to
Yeah.
make this quick. I was looking around because we lost our clock.
Yeah,
So you're going to have to check us out, see how well we're doing. We got a lot of topics to cover today.
Oh, yeah, that's what.
Last thing is, after we did our show on the state's intention to turn all of our interstate highways into tollways, okay, I went over and I attended several Porter County council meetings. Town of Porter, Chesterton, Burns Harbor, the Porter County council meeting. And very surprisingly, but now it makes sense, Porter County made history this year nationally by not having
Yeah.
their election results in for several days. Well, the meeting that I attended, there was a big blowout between the Porter County Council and the Porter County Clerk's Office about the upcoming election. The age and reliability of their voting machines, the manning of the election, and it was pretty heated. And the county council was pretty aggressive, as any council would be. We don't want a goof up in this election. Well, they were assured that there wouldn't be.
Well, here
That
we are.
assurance
Go ahead and go
didn't
into that
take place.
topic. Porter County had, what was it, 3 days?
Oh,
They didn't have the
yeah.
results.
3 days they didn't have the results.
And what I read, the commissioner asked the FBI to look into it. Now, we wanted to bring this forward because in Indiana, the Board of Elections, there's people in there that are employed by the county that are hired by the head of the respective party. There's a Democrat and there's a Republican in the Board of Elections. Now in Indiana, those people are not under the authority of the clerk. They are hired and under the authority of the two party chairs. In Porter County and Indiana, you can choose, the county can choose, and the county clerk of the courts can choose, if they so wish, that those individuals will now be put under the control of the clerk. And that's a tough situation because I know the clerk has always been concerned that they have no authority over two employees. They come and go, they set their schedule, but they get paid by the county. They're county employees. Now Porter County chose to make their employees be underneath the authority of the clerk. And here we go. Had a huge, disastrous, national attention mess.
Yeah, really.
Because they were no longer under the authority of the two parties. Now, if they were under the authority of the parties, this mess would have been definitely attributed to the two parties. Hey, your people have screwed this up. So we want some answers. But no, they thought they were making, the council thought they were making a good choice by putting these employees. So I don't know. I mean, it's tough. You know, would you like to have two employees under you that you have no authority over? You can't set their schedule. You can't say they've been in late. You can't say how many vacation days. Not much you can say at all. Mm-hmm. Now that's tough for the clerk, but it seems to work because we don't have Porter County happen here in LaPorte County. We had an election. We had results in.
Yeah.
We were done. We were golden. We moved on like every other county in Indiana.
Yeah, you can almost guarantee that will not happen in Porter County.
Yeah, so now is Porter County going to go back and say, wait a minute.
Well, how old are our holding machines. You know, they're expensive, but you need to have reliable machinery. I need to go back for just a second. We've taken a lot of time on already. I said that I went over to these council meetings, and I didn't say why. I went over to ask each government body to pass a resolution sending it downstate to the state legislature in opposition of turning our interstates into toll roads, because Tony and I both feel that it will be disastrous from a safety point of view. We'll have so many heavy trucks jumping off of I-94, I-65, I-31 over by South Bend, and it would be so many northern Indiana Hoosiers dying because of this. It's not, that's why I went over. But I just happened to observe this meeting that was now makes sense.
Yeah, and back on the tolling of interstates, we understand that 465 around Indianapolis will not be tolled.
Yeah.
One of the busiest interstates will not be tolled. So I guess the Ivory Palace doesn't have to pay because they make the laws. But the other side note is there was an article that US 30 down in South County was going to be turned into an interstate. So here we go, because you said 65 and 94. So if you make 30 an interstate and they all bump off of 30, because now they got to pay a toll and they're on 8 and 6 and 10, there's just more dead people. I'm sorry. And I don't understand how every other county in the state of Indiana isn't screaming at the top of their lungs. If Indianapolis is not getting tolled on 465, neither are we.
We're all in or none of us are in. We're all in or none are in. Yep, I agree.
So can we?
The means by which our state is raising money, just like all the fees that they tried to impose on us to support the new road maintenance program, $800 million estimated cost. The state has a $2 billion surplus,
Yeah.
but they didn't want to take any money out of that surplus, so they had all these different fees. $5 a tire each time you buy new tires, $15 on your vehicle registration, 10 cents a gallon on gas to preserve that $2 billion surplus. Why? I don't know.
In a booming economy. So we can switch this up because we're going to take a couple of minutes on, let's go to community crossings improvement.
Okay.
Community crossings. So here's the deal. The municipalities collect the taxes, we send it down to Indy. Then Indy graciously allows us to have more money back to fix our roads. So they came up with this community crossings grants where they'll share 50-50 for road paving. And a lot of communities need it. Michigan City's blessed with the casino, but
they still
did ask
qualified
for it. Yeah, we still qualified. I
because
think
they got it last year, right?
We asked for it in some in 2017. I looked it up because it came up on my computer because I'm an email person with INDOT, and it showed all the people who got money from community crossings. And I didn't bring it, but City of LaPorte got, I don't know, $400,000. County LaPorte got $700,000. And I looked down there, Trail Creek or
Long Beach got a lot of money.
Long Beach got money.
Yep.
I think Potawatomi got some money. I looked for Michigan City because I'm sure we would want some of that money. I didn't see us anywhere.
We don't need that money, Tony.
So I guess we don't. We don't need to spend it. We got money. But it just irks me, and we go over this all the time, that Indianapolis is graciously good enough to give us some money back. No, it was our money in the first place. I've asked this over and over again. How much money do we send downstate, and how much money do we get back? And how much money does Indy or Marion County send to the state capital? How much money do they get back? I bet you there's a disproportionate share. We see this right now in Lake County with, I believe, the town of St. John. There's a town that's going to vote to get out of the township they're in because they fund all the worst part of this township, and they want out. And they want to go to the next township because they're tired of being the bank for the rest of the horrible township. That was the question, community crossings. Did Michigan City not get any money for 2018? Are we going to ask for any money in 2019? It's our money.
I'd like to know why they didn't.
If we had the system set up in 2017, why don't we ask any money for 2018?
If they were applied and refused, that's one thing. If they just didn't bother to apply because it was too much trouble, that's unacceptable.
Or somebody fell asleep at the switch and oops, we missed the date.
Hey, that could happen based on our next topic.
So there we go.
Next topic. Why doesn't Michigan City finish anything? The apartment complex at the old Memorial Hospital site.
Did you go to the apartment complex? I didn't drive by.
Oh, there's nothing going on.
Now,
It's been nothing been going on for months.
I asked Dwayne that because I saw a redevelopment commission meeting. That was like an extra one. And the engineer was up there asking for, I think, $50,000 for an add-on for the project. And the planner, Craig Phillips, was sitting up there going, you know,
Why?
he was kind of like, I thought we were on schedule. I didn't think this was coming up. Why another extra? He doesn't want to stop the project, but something is not working here. Could we, you know, I get the impression it was like, could we do this not in a meeting?
Yeah,
This is probably-
Please, let's talk about this on the
I
side.
mean, don't blindside me with
May
$50,000.
through October, the best months of the year for construction. And nothing was going on. It was going at a snail's pace. That's only one of them. I started the apartment complex at Memorial Hospital site. Our new open-air park at 7th Street and Franklin. The Ohio Street widening project. It's been blocked off one way for months.
Yeah, it's still closed.
It's still closed.
Still closed.
And development of the former News Dispatch Police Department site. Well, you know where it's.
Oh, you are beautiful.
Yeah, it's a very hard. You are beautiful site.
I love doing that to Dwayne.
$40,000 You Are Beautiful sign.
I drove by the other night, lights weren't on. I guess it wasn't beautiful that night. Sorry.
The lights were off. Oh
No,
my
the
God.
lights were on.
You know, I don't know.
We should laugh because this is bad.
Does this administration have attention deficit or something? That they're great at starting new projects. They've got these ideas and they throw some money out there, but nothing gets finished. That's a short topic, but it's one worth mentioning because, you know, we do all these studies. What was a gateway implementation plan? That was the next one. Very extensive. Started out well. They made Washington and Pine both two ways.
Yeah, right
They
on
did that
there.
part of it. That was just putting down paint. And
Now, they did bollocks up, what's that street? 2nd Street, that's supposed to go over there by Galveston?
Yeah.
That got pulled out of the project because they screwed something up bad there. They didn't realize wasn't much right away there. Whoops. But they got it done. Got the lights up and they got
we've
two
got
ways.
so many projects on the table and none of them seem to get completed.
But since this is a short topic, and I hate to do this, but we got to bring up the safety improvements. I've been around town now that most of these safety improvements are in. And even one of my tenants in my building said, wait, they put that sign up there. You see it says school zone 15 mile an hour. He goes, no, how hard is it to drive 15 mile an hour? I said, I know, but it's by the school, so you need to slow down. But I kind of asked in my head, it took an engineering study and a project in order for somebody to put a slow down 15 mile an hour school zone sign in. Really? And then
A sign that probably, and I bought signs for construction projects before, probably didn't cost $35.
So we hired an engineering firm. And then, so I want to bring this up because I was around Marsh School. And they got stops at really every corner around Marsh. And they wouldn't put them pedestrian walkway stripes on. But they didn't repaint the stripe bars for the stop sign. They just slapped this, and they did use thermoplast, so it's the better stuff. But it's like, and I understand the contract was just to put the stripe bars on. They're not going to do any extra. But the design
Well, not unless
had
you give
nothing.
an extra, which...
But the design didn't even have the stop bar marked again. Let alone, like we talked, stop signs that blink. Please, this is school. I mean, the schools are probably more important than Pine and Washington.
Yeah.
I mean...
Well, I said that the first time we talked about it. We spent all kinds of money on these solar signs, rechargeable solar signs in the Uptown Arts District area, where at every intersection where we had a solar sign, we also had a permanent overhead electric crossing control with signs on the pole. Plus we had a solar sign, a standalone sign with a chart with a solar panel on it, which was in addition to the sign right there that would say, go, time to go, wait. And yet we can't do them for our school districts or in our school districts and our recreational areas.
And you go down Johnson, so at Johnson at Critchfield, they have the same kind of school zone. You got to reduce your speed down to 20, I think.
Yep.
And they didn't put these bright flashing LED signs out. They put a regular sign on the top. They put this little thing that spins with the wind, a reflector. It gets your attention that, hey, careful, you're coming to the school zone. We couldn't even do that. But we paid for a consultant out of town who set a set of plans, who we bid it out, and I don't know, we just keep going over this. We have good people in our street department who can handle this. And we have the money. Well, I guess we don't, since we're not applying for community crossings. We have the money to put some signs up and paint the stop bars and paint the crosswalks.
Well,
this is not addition to, this is normal stuff, like picking up the garbage or plowing the streets or patching back. This is normal stuff. This is not extra.
I don't know what to say. Our city planner came from Valparaiso.
They do a good job in Valpo.
Our city engineer came from Lake Station. Maybe they don't know where all the schools and all the recreational areas are. I mean, I'm not going to go there again. I already mentioned about when the city let the paving project for Village Green, and all the contractors were there, and one of the contractors said, I'm unfamiliar, I'm not from Michigan City, to Spike Peller, our city engineer, and said, hey, can you tell me where Village Green is at? And he said, can you do math class? I almost fell off my chair.
So a quick side note to that. We had a little blurb 5 weeks ago about talking about the mayor's salary, and I wanted to make it brought up that somebody must be listening, right? Because we talked about this. Because in the Michigan City News Dispatch, it said that the mayor's salary does include all the other per diems he gets. For the sanitary districts, they said that salary, it was in the paper, the article said all his other salaries are included in that amount. So I wanted to make sure that clear that the News Dispatch said, that's not his base salary, that is his whole salary.
Yeah.
I haven't checked into it, but I want to bring it up. It was in the paper. Okay, so move on. Double track, South Shore.
I'd like to take a look at the ordinance.
South Shore double track.
A few other documents on that.
They say
what's going to happen?
They say $376 million now.
For what?
For the double track.
To finish the double track?
No, to build a double track. I thought it was $800 million. Those numbers are jumping all over the place.
Well, numbers stick in my mind for some reason. The original estimate was $906 million for the double track, the whole thing. And the federal government was supposed to pick up 50%, 400 and, what would that be, 904?
453.
453, and the lakefront counties are supposed to pick up 453. So I don't know where this 376 number is coming from. There's so many numbers floating around, but when I put this, Tony and I talk about the agenda, obviously, before we get in front of the camera, and when I wrote this down, my thought was that what we were going to talk about was, what is the double track plan going to be now that we know there's not going to be a generating station up there? There's going to be real estate that's going to be available. Do we want to back this plan, slow it down a little bit for a better plan because of the real estate that's going to be available? That's what I was thinking.
Well, also we talked about the $306 million with the federal transportation dollars.
Yeah, it's not. Are we talking about the same thing?
Yeah, the federal transportation dollars that we were looking for, right?
Yeah, are not there.
They're probably not going to be there.
The list of projects, and the other day I saw a newspaper, and it was at the American Legion, and I snatched it on the way out. There was a stack of them, and it said Lakefront in support of double track. And I thought, let's not confuse the pecking order here. It's like everybody wants to see the basketball game, but nobody unlocked the building to have it. And what we got here is all the lakefront communities can be in support of this all they want. If President Trump doesn't fund the project, which we've talked about, Tony obtained a list of the transportation projects that are on the bill to be financed in 2019. There's 10 of them. They're all very expensive. No new projects are added to that list until one goes off. And our double track is not one of them. And the list gave information as to how long the project was expected to take, and none of them were one-year projects. So I don't think we're going to see federal money for our double track in 2019 or 2020, regardless of how excited all of our lakefront communities are about it.
Well, that's a two-question argument, because the one was that there is federal transportation funds that Congress has allowed the president, the Federal Transportation Authority, to give, but he is not releasing them. So these people have projects that are working, and they spent the money. The federal transportation is not writing the check. They're like, wait a minute, guys, we don't agree with it. This administration does not agree with this. We want you to pay your own freight. So that's what I want to give to Dwayne.
Yeah.
They have made it clear they want the local municipalities to pay. If it's a good project, you pay with a new tax,
Exactly.
a new bond, a new TIF, whatever you want. We're not giving you the money. You pay.
And if you've seen our show that we did and we talked about the financial state Michigan City's in, at that time it was $69 million in debt because of all the bonds these administrations, Mayor Oberle's and then Mayor Mears, I didn't go back as far as Mayor Brilson, but Oberle and Mears administrations have put the city in debt $69 million. That's principal plus interest. So if we want this double track, please don't tell us the only way we're going to get it is
Another
if
$376 million.
in bonds, because I don't have much confidence that our current administration won't try to float that many bonds.
Well, there was an article that I can't remember who it was. Somebody was putting together, I think NICD was putting together a consortium, a group of people to talk about all the TIF areas that will surround the double track and how much revenue that would bring in. So now, to me, here at the show, that tells me that, okay, we have this amount of improvement, let's TIF and bond. Mm-hmm. Now, I've got to go over a little bit, and I wish somebody would sit up on one of these meetings and ask, why are we TIFing things and using bonds? Because California, the most liberal state in the United States, has gotten rid of TIFs and bonds because of the complete failure.
Well, Indiana's done the same thing. Indiana's closing.
They're trying to close a loop.
They're closing that program out because of communities like Carmel, like Fort Wayne, and like Michigan City, who has sat on that money and not used it for renovating what they call blighted areas. When Redevelopment Commission uses $3.4 million or something like that for the Wabash streetscape, sidewalks and flowers and bushes, Wabash Street was not a blighted area. They used that just to dress it up.
Well, it might have been a little blighted, but it wasn't run down. The street wasn't bad.
Well, they did it to support the traffic and to support the Lighthouse Mall and that area. And yet, as I said in the program, the only way you're going to make Lighthouse Mall more attractive is to make it where people that walk or drive down Wabash Street don't see the backs of buildings and garbage dumpsters and air conditioning units out there. They should have been built, that campus, with an internal area where you have storefronts and storefronts all up and down Wabash Street, where no matter where you look at it from, inside of the campus or outside, you see an attractive sidewalk mall.
Yeah, because no matter where you are, you don't see the inside unless you walk in there.
Unless you enter.
You all see the backs. Okay, so we got to be quick because we want to bring it up. New Lakefront District created. I downloaded it. I never usually print because it was a waste of paper, but I just want to show you here 70 pages. 70 more pages
of regulations.
Regulations for the city of Michigan City for the new lakefront development. And we said it before, as soon as NIPSCO announced we're probably not going to be there, right or wrong, they want to make sure the lakefront looks like they want it to look, and NIPSCO is going to be bound, I presume, by 70 more pages of regulations, or a developer. But what's neat is that there was a plan commission review with the public there, and there's this one guy, and I think he was somewhere around the Beach Walk area. He said he was a developer and he bought some ground, and he talked to lots of developers and people in the area, and he talked good about Beach Walk, but he said, you know, you look at Beach Walk, and you look at all the regulations that were in place when Beach Walk happened, they weren't followed. He goes, what makes you think you're going to follow these? We know things just somehow slip through the cracks and developments happen and there's a blind eye to the regulations. So he goes, why are you creating more regulations when the ones you have weren't followed?
Well, to me, Tony, this is a perfect example of the tail trying to wag the dog.
Exactly.
The tail being Michigan City, the dog being all of the developers, however many that may be interested in billion-dollar property.
Yeah, we're talking $1 billion.
We're not talking a couple million, we're talking billion-dollar property. These guys start to check into it, and Michigan City lays these 70-some pages of regulations on them, and they're going to walk away from the table. We want to stay in control, and we're not. If we want development there, we need to be flexible and talk about what these developers want before we tell them what we're going to let them do.
Because you look at this,
They'll walk away from the table.
this is the Lakeshore plan, but you look in here, and some of the people are talking about it. They have the US 421 South Gateway Corridor Revitalization Plan. So they've walked away from the Lakeshore. Now they're south of 421, south of 20.
Well, I don't think anybody proofreads any of that stuff. I've said that before. Well, a couple shows ago, you asked me if I had any stuff left over from the double track.
Yeah.
And I did. I didn't think, I thought I threw it all away, but I looked through it. And the north end scenario that got vetoed pretty quickly, it was the mayor's first choice. And then he decided that he liked the 11th Street corridor better when the council and everybody and the public was opposed to it. But anyway, there were drawings of it, and it showed the new train station and several thousand square feet of open air ground level parking right where City Hall, the News Dispatch, and the police building was. Property that we've heard time and time again, rumored that the city wants to bring in a developer to take that area as one package, that whole area is one package, and build a big high-rise something or other there. And here, the double track showed that as being open-air parking in a small train station. So I wonder if anybody reads this stuff, or they just say, well, you're done with it? Thank you.
Well, I like your tail wagging the dog.
It doesn't make sense.
We're playing a game of chicken here. We're playing a game of chicken with $1 billion developer, and this is not a game we want to play. So are we telling the developers of the north end that we want it to look like this, and we want it to look like this, and they're going to say, well, we don't like that, so
bye-bye.
We're just going to leave that plant sit up there and rot and rust until you guys give in because we hold $1 billion. So you better be careful when you start playing a game of chicken with $1 billion developers. You're going to try to put all this on them. They have more attorneys. They control $1 billion of revenue. So what's 3% of $1 billion in commercial revenue that we are going to play chicken with? And we're going to say, here's 70 new pages.
We've all heard on the occasional issue how fast our president, President Trump, with a career of developing multi-million, billion-dollar properties, can say, it's over, goodbye.
Yeah, walk away.
Walk away. And that's exactly what'll happen. We'll be left there, and when you live in an area that I hear time and time again, we need to be a resort community with a season that's from Memorial Day to Labor Day, and you're going to put restrictions on people that will come in and develop something that will make it more of a resort community than it is. You can put a ton of restrictions on somebody that only wants to build a complex that only really pays during that short time of the year. No. They're going to walk away. They'll never even show up at the table to discuss it.
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
Yeah, these people are here to make a profit. We know that.
But you know, look at what we've talked about today. We've talked about the failure of Michigan City to get community crossing money. We've talked about these projects that start that don't seem to complete in a timely manner. Oh yeah, oh, I'll complete them. Give me another 20 years as mayor, and you know, no. Every construction project, every development project has a start date and an end date, and it's a realistic date, because while you're building that project, you are spending money. You have to get over spending money and start recouping money on your investment. But we don't seem to ever get to that stage of completing these things and starting to recoup money. And these regulations. And then the latest thing the other day, I heard it on the news or somewhere, I heard it that the mayor went down to a meeting in Florida or something to talk about the boat race. Again, well, it was either early this year or last year that there was all the excitement because the contract had been renegotiated for the next 5 years. Mm-hmm. So maybe at that meeting when we were talking about a 5-year program being put in place, the mayor's attendance helped, but now it's locked in for the next 5 years. So, you know, did he take a vacation on the city's dime? I'd like to see if he's going to submit an expense report for this. That's what I'd like to know.
Okay, so we only got a little over 5 minutes, and I don't remember if I talked to you about it, but I remember seeing it on the listserv, the information news coming out of Indy about the school grade reports came out.
Oh, yeah.
And I was sure Michigan City wasn't going to talk about this, but you know, our superintendent, Easton Watkins, she came right out in the paper. I give her props. She didn't shy away from this. She just, you know, it is what it is. We're still improving. We're working on it. Now, we did improve because Krieger and Barker were, I think Krieger was an F and Barker was a D. I look at it now, and they score it by grade. So now Barker and Krieger are both Ds. And what breaks my heart about this is we have the Promise Scholarship, and you're required to send your kids to the junior high to get the full scholarship. So you got to send your kids to a couple of junior highs that are both Ds. But you look at the points, and a lot of people are very upset about these point standards. But you look at the points where you get to the grade. Krieger is a D at 63.2%. 63.2 points. So I presume 100 points is an A plus. I think actually Valpo had 116. There's a school. So 100. So a D, you're at 63. That's like barely a D. That's like a D minus. Barker is a 69.7. That's almost a C. So they were 0.03 from a C, I presume. And then Michigan City High School, I'm looking here real quick. Michigan City High School is a B, 83.5 points. That was good.
I see one school that got an A. Which one was that?
One school got an A. Knapp. And a high, 93.1 points. That's nice. Got an A, Knapp School. The school that really concerned me was Pine. Dropped down to a D. And the newspaper said that, a D.
Wait a minute, that's one of those...
It's a brand new magnet school, right?
Magnet school,
yeah,
wow.
Dropped to a D.
I guess those...
That's a brand new school, right?
I guess those 55-inch big screen TVs in every classroom aren't
yeah, because Knapp's not that new a school. They haven't seen that much of an improvement. It's a good neighborhood.
Yeah, it's a stable neighborhood.
Well, that's the mayor's neighborhood, right? Yeah. It's a good A school. Now, what I wanted to say is that if you look down this list, and you can download this list from the State Department of Education, Valparaiso stands out. I mean, head and shoulders above Carmel.
Really?
A. Yeah, A. All A schools except one got a B. And to me, and I want to leave this to you in like a couple minutes, because I know you wanted this before and you probably still want this now. If you look at the schools that have extremely high good grades, you're talking West Lafayette, you're talking Valpo, talking Muncie. What do they all have in common?
They've got a university.
They got a university right there in
the
town.
school. Yeah,
I mean, West Lafayette, A schools. Valparaiso, A schools. Now, we have Purdue Northwest and Westville, but that's not in town. And you've said it before. Bring them in town.
Yeah.
So that's why I wanted to give you the leeway that here again we go. We're improving, and kudos to Barbara Easton Watkins for saying what it is.
That was something.
She went in the paper, and she did not shy away from it. She said what it is what it is, and we're working on it. So it just saddens my heart that we have a Promise Scholarship, which is fantastic, but you got to send your kids to these schools to get to it. And that's kind of backwards.
We've got a lot of work to do. Did you see the newspaper today?
No, I did not.
Heart of Michigan City, Taco Bell, armed robbery. Right next to the busiest intersection in Michigan City, 20 and Franklin Street. You know, you can't control, I mean, individual incidents, you can't stop them. But they occur more in communities where the atmosphere is, we've had so many problems at Lighthouse Mall.
I don't know what to say. We're building new Popeyes. We're building new Popeyes, right? We had a Popeyes here. It failed in like 3 years. And I don't get it. And great for the person who's investing in it. But to start another Popeyes, especially, I think it's right there by the Starbucks in that location. Talk about a traffic nightmare. You can't get in and out of Starbucks. I'm not a Starbucks fan, but I watch the people going in and out there constantly trying to take a left or right into that place. It's horrible. But we're getting another Popeyes. Again, we had a Popeyes. It failed. Now we're getting another tire store. You know, is that going to put a tire store here downtown out of business in the Uptown Arts District? Flanagan. Are they gone now? Now we got tire stores, mattress stores, restaurants. Mattress firm, I think this is going to declare bankruptcy. We got more empty buildings. We only got a minute left. It's great to be back in the saddle. I think Andy's going to give us all the shows and put them on YouTube. We'll try to index them. I know that's Dwayne's pet peeve that I can't get the index fast enough.
It's just
he's got to beat on me more. I got to get them done, guys.
Well, you know, we've done. I don't know. We've been doing this for almost 18 months now, and we talked about so many good topics that if someone here's what we talked about this, I think they should be able to get on YouTube and go down a directory and okay, this is a show they talked about and dial right into that show. They shouldn't have to watch through the entire show to get to the subject they want to hear us talk about. And so we're going to do it. We're going to do it. We just need to get it done.
We'll work on it. Got much more to talk about. It's good to see you again.
We're like Michigan City. We're not getting it done.
We're not getting it.
We got to dig in.
Dig in.
All right. Thanks. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.